If science had an answer for everything, there would be people living on the moon right now. Not only that, but we'd also understand everything there is to know about the history of our planet and all the unexplained phenomena to be found on it. A world like that would be very advanced, but also a little dull. After all, who doesn't love a mystery? We've got plenty of mysteries for you in this video, and scientists have struggled with all of them. You don't need to know much about science to understand that rocks and boulders aren't alive. As they aren't alive, they shouldn't be able to grow. And yet the so-called living stones of Trovance in Crostetsy and Wallachia, Romania, appear to grow a little with each passing year. The rocks are actually a sandstone concretion capable of secreting cement. Their cores are made of stone, but their outer shells are made of sandstone. When the rain comes down heavily, the new secretions appear on the outer shells of the rocks and help them to grow. Since 2004, the growing stones have been collecting together in one location, known as Trovance Museum Natural Reserve, both to study the phenomenon more closely and also to protect and preserve them. Unsurprisingly, many of the local people who live around the stones and have been aware of them for generations believe the rocks to be alive and treat them as supernatural objects. Science may have given them a better explanation, but even now, very few of them choose to believe it. After all, scientists wouldn't be studying them so closely if they were 100% sure they understood all of their secrets. There's a part of Siberia that's known as the end of the world. If you ever spent any time there, you'd quickly understand why. The harsh climate can be deadly, but not as deadly as the 262-foot hole that appeared there overnight in 2014. This part of northern Siberia is rich in natural gas, so the sudden appearance of a gargantuan crater was initially feared to have been caused by an enormous gas explosion beneath the Yamal Peninsula. Fringe theorists on the internet instead decided that it must have been the landing site for a UFO. Several years after the crater appeared, there's still no official explanation of how it happened, although some scientists believe it's a product of global warming, with heated gases pushing up beneath the surface and then exploding almost like a champagne cork. What can be said for certain is that it wasn't caused by a meteorite, which was another one of the initial theories. Whatever happened here, the crater was caused by something pushing up from below, rather than down from above. If Russia has found any answers, it's decided not to share them with the world. Antarctica is a famously white continent, owing to all of the snow and ice that makes up the bulk of what's visible to the naked eye. The Taylor Glacier isn't like the rest of the continent, though. When a survey ship passed it for the first time in 1911, the crew were amazed and slightly terrified to see a blood-red liquid oozing out of its side. That earned the glacier the nickname Bloodfalls. At first, geologists thought the unusual shade was caused by algae, but more recently we found out that isn't the case. The ice is actually being discolored by microbes that have spent around 2 million years trapped beneath the ice, totally cut off from the rest of the world and evolving on their own in a place that lacks heat, light, and oxygen. The microbes are essentially an alien species and have turned the water into a gloopy red, primordial ooze full of iron. The thick water has broken through a fissure in the ice, creating a waterfall that allows it to escape but doesn't allow anything else to enter the hole. We'd once have thought it impossible even for microbes to survive in such conditions, but nature has a way of surprising us. Our next scientific mystery isn't one that belongs to just one location, but several locations all over the world. They're stone spheres, and in some places, they're so common that people just walk by them without ever asking how they got there. That's even true of the beach ball-sized sphere embedded 6 feet up a wall at Shale Hollow Preserve, Columbus, Ohio. Ohio is a particular hotspot for the spheres, which range in size from a few inches to a few feet, but most commonly appear to be about the same size as cannonballs. The official explanation for them is that they're carbonate concretions, although experts are unsure of the precise details of their formation and growth. At their core, they're either dolomite or limestone, but they exist inside layers of shale and push the shale outward as they grow. The process would be similar to the way that an oyster can take a grain of sand and turn it into a pearl. Having hundreds of examples to look at in Ohio and thousands more around the world hasn't got scientists any closer to being able to tell us exactly how and why these concretions occur, and why they always take on this shape. If you're a gambler, you might occasionally enjoy visiting racetracks, but we can think of one racetrack you'll never want to go to. It's the Racetrack Playa in Death Valley, California, USA, and it's one of the most inhospitable places on Earth. Racetrack Playa is very hot, very dry, and very flat. It's hard to believe that it's a lake bed. It's even harder to believe that the rocks there appear to sail across the desert on their own, and yet they do. The so-called sailing stones can easily be seen on the surface of the sand because of the long trails they leave behind them, denoting their direction of travel. The rocks can weigh several hundred pounds, so the wind shouldn't be able to move them, and yet the trails obviously show that they've been moved. This could be someone's idea of a prank, but if it is the work of pranksters, they've been operating under the noses of scientists and researchers for more than 100 years without being noticed. Nobody has ever recorded any of the stones in the act of moving, and no footprints have ever been detected leading to or from any of the stones, with the exception of those of scientists. It's a riddle nobody can solve. There are many stunning tourist destinations in Mexico, some of which are better known than others. One of the least well-known is Hidden Beach in Islas Marietas. The beach is beneath the surface of the island, and is well known for being frequented by lovers in search of privacy. When seen from above, Hidden Beach looks like a gaping hole in the middle of an otherwise green island. The locals call it Playa del Amor, which is a direct reference to what goes on here after dark. Scientists used to think that the beach was created by volcanic activity, but recently their thinking has changed. It's now thought that there might be some credence to the long-standing rumor that the hole was made by a series of bombings in the early 20th century. The Marietta Islands are uninhabited, and so the Mexican government has used them in the past for military tests. If that's true, it's not something that's going to happen again, because the islands are now a national park, as well as a designated UNESCO MAB Biosphere Reserve. The couples who come to the island in search of fun and frolics tend to arrive by kayak. If you flew over the Recherche Archipelago in Australia and looked out of your window, you could be forgiven for thinking that someone had dropped an enormous pink piece of chewing gum on the ground. Get closer, though, and you'll quickly realize that it's an impossibly bright pink lake. This is Lake Hillier, and the question of where it got its unusual shade from and how it maintains it has been baffling scientists for decades. Pink lakes aren't entirely unheard of. There's one in Senegal, for example, and there's even another one in Australia known as Pink Lake, but their coloring has been adequately explained by science. This one remains an enigma. The high salinity of the lake probably plays a role, and a species of algae known as Dunaliella salina might be contributing too. But salinity and algae tend only to discolor a lake for a few months of each year. Lake Hillier is pink all year round, and the water even stays pink when you bottle it and take it home with you. The ongoing mystery might explain why the island is currently off limits to visitors and is marked as a place of research. What does the Australian government know about the lake that nobody else does? Everybody's seen and heard of rainbows, but have you ever seen a moonbow? These natural wonders, effectively rainbows that happen at night, are extremely rare, but an English farmer managed to capture images of a lunar rainbow in Coquet Valley, Northumberland in October 2016. The pictures were taken at 2 a.m. As the name implies, lunar rainbows happen when moonlight refracts through moisture in the atmosphere, just as rainbows are caused by the refracting light of the sun. The best time to see one is during a full moon after it's been raining, and it's thought that electrical storms make them more likely to appear too. It's not just down to the weather either. The moon has to be at just the right height in the night sky for the moonbow to be created. That's why they're so rare, and that's also why scientists have had so little opportunity to study them. In theory, they should appear a lot more often than they do, so there must be something else to the phenomenon that's currently beyond our comprehension. If you're ever lucky enough to see one yourself, get your phone out of your pocket and take as many pictures of it as possible. You might assist with a scientific breakthrough. The gates of hell are in Turkmenistan. Okay, maybe we're being dramatic, but a strange phenomenon known colloquially as the gates of hell exists in Turkmenistan. It's in the middle of the Karakum Desert, and it's been on fire for exactly 51 years as of 2022. Its less awe-inspiring name is the Darvaza gas crater, and it was created in 1971 after the Soviets had a mining mishap. The drilling operation broke into a previously unknown gas cavern underneath the ground, releasing dangerous amounts of methane into the atmosphere. The panicking workers decided to ignite the cloud and burn off the gas. Their scientists told them it would be safe to return and carry on drilling after the gas had burned away in 3 or 4 days. Obviously, that didn't happen. Scientists aren't sure why the crater is still burning. The only explanation is that it's getting a constant supply of methane from somewhere, but they're not sure where. It might burn forever for all anyone knows, but it has at least turned into a tourist attraction. The president of Turkmenistan ordered the crater to be closed in January 2020, but without understanding precisely what keeps it burning, that might be easier said than done. When you look at pictures of the hills of Zhangyi Dangxia National Geographic Park in China, you might be tempted to believe that the colors have been drawn in by a child with an overactive imagination. There's no need to use your imagination to see these incredible colors on the hills, though. They're 100% real. This stunning sight is the result of nature at its most creative. Unsurprisingly, the region has been nicknamed Rainbow Hills. It's taken billions of years for this spectacular show to come together, with one type of rock piling up against another and then slowly being whipped into both shape and shade by water erosion and high winds. The combination of cephite, peelite, and red sandstone has created these ribbon-like stripes, extending for hundreds of feet in every direction. The colors fade towards the end of the hills, becoming yellow and gray and shining in the sunlight like crystals. If you're lucky enough to be in the area just as the sun goes down, it's said to look as if the hillside has caught fire. Most of you will have heard of the Northern Lights, also known as Aurora Borealis. The colorful light show in the sky is best seen from the Arctic Circle and regularly attracts tourists to places like Finland, Sweden, Norway, and Iceland. You wouldn't normally expect to see the Northern Lights in the skies above Scotland, but plenty of confused Scots thought they were being treated to a glimpse of them in February 2016. Looking at these pictures, it's easy to see why they thought it was Aurora Borealis, but this is another unusual type of cloud formation. They're called nacreous clouds, and they occasionally form in the lower stratosphere above polar regions just after the sun dips below the horizon. You might also hear them referred to as mother-of-pearl clouds. It's normally too dry for clouds to form at 70,000 feet, but temperatures drop low enough during the polar winter to provide suitable conditions. The rainbow-like colors come from ice crystals inside the clouds reflecting the sun's rays. Clouds like this tend not to last long after they form, so always grab a picture as quickly as you can if you see one. In May 2021, the residents of the Bay Area in California, USA, thought they'd woken up to see an alien invasion of flying saucers in the sky. We can see where the confusion came from. The shapes are disc-like and even appear to have a metallic gray color. Not everyone in the Bay Area thought that the shapes looked like UFOs, but even those who didn't wondered why there were apparently stacks of pancakes in the sky. As you may already have guessed, unusual clouds are once again the culprit. These are altocumulus lenticular clouds. They're created when strong winds blow perpendicular to geographic features like mountains, canyons, or even large bodies of water. They're not always perfectly round like these Californian examples, but these particular lenticular clouds were created by the region's mountains, which cause the clouds to continuously form and then dissipate, creating a stacked effect in the sky. There are so many strange sights to see in California that we can't guarantee that aliens have never visited the state. But these aren't pictures of their spaceships. It's just Mother Nature putting a show on in the sky for all of us to admire. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and enjoy watching new videos on my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you soon!